I did. I found myself playing later on when I was introduced to the school orchestra program in third grade, as like a lot of people do. They get into it, and I found my instrument years later. Actually, I started on violin, and it wasn't until sixth grade when the bass was calling. So that's where it kind of started, around 11, 12 years old. And before you knew it, I was playing along. I was always playing along with records and cassette tapes, if that dates me. But I was playing along with recordings, and of course learning how to read music in school and playing with all kinds of school ensembles. I was playing in a rock band with all my buddies growing up, and we were all into Nirvana, and my hair was long. And anyway, it was a very wild time. But eventually I went to college for it, and I started getting immersed in the Philadelphia jazz scene, which is where I'm from. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I hailed from there for many, many years. Then I moved to New York, and I lived in Chicago. And now that I'm here, I've been here about 10 years, and this is where I'm raising my family. And I have two little daughters that probably will pursue music or, have interest in music. And that's a big topic I would like to just kind of convey to everyone here today. Whether you feel as passionate as I did from a very early age, or you're someone who's picking it up and it's just something you really enjoy, don't let music leave you for whatever reason, whether you're a professional musician or just a hobbyist or someone who's just a human being who enjoys music and the human spirit. Not going to discourage you from keeping it in your life. It's very important. It's really something that's very, it's the center of my life, but I think it should be the center of everyone's life in some aspects. So I didn't know if everyone here was pursuing music or for a career or anything, or if they were pursuing teaching or many of the other, so many things you can do in music. It's not just teaching and performing. There's many other fields that are involved in this, if you had any more specific questions about that. But music's very important to me. And I play a lot of different instruments. I've marched in a marching band. I played tuba. I played just about every instrument you can think of. And I've done a lot of different musical situations. So I'm just inspired by it all.
Mr. Pedraz, I didn't know that you played tuba. That's actually kind of cool. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. I have a lot of different other lives I could talk about, but let's leave it cut off the tuba chapter right there.
So I had a few questions that I wanted the kids to kind of hear your answer to. So one of them is, I guess, what was the most memorable, actually, no, I'm going to go on this route. So this year because we did all of our stuff over Zoom, basically, we did a lot of work with improvising and with creating music. And so we came up with a few different tracks actually, where we would record ourselves to a specific BPM and then in a specific key, and we would come up with our own musical ideas. And as somebody who does this every day, what would you recommend for somebody who really wants to practice improvisation, and why do you think it's important for us to learn that in orchestra? Because we're used to reading music, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think all music was originally improvised. Bach was a lot of improvised stuff back in the day. And musicians back then were more equipped to improvise. That was more of a part of the skill set that you would learn, even amongst orchestra players. And I would say that's something that's been kind of lost in the last 150 years of pedagogy, because we've been scrambling to get everything on paper, and also most recordings. Everyone remember here the invention of the recorded music has only been around about 100 years. Think about that. We don't even know how Bach sounds. So anyway, getting off the topic there, but to really talk about why you would improvise. I mean, for me, it was very innate. When I was a little kid, I would sit at a little toy organ in my kitchen, in my basement rather, and I would immediately start improvising melodies, hearing melodies that I heard, or playing melodies like them. So I think it's an important skill set to have, not just for music. I mean, outside of the realm of music, you improvise in your everyday life. If something, you hit a stump, a little bump in the road, whatever that is, if it's your work, whether it's on your way to work. I have two children, and they throw me a lot of curveballs all day, so I'm constantly improvising. cooking mac and cheese like with one hand while I'm doing some other thing. Getting off topic again, but improvising is a very important skill, and it's something that it kind of deals with your insecurities of expressing who you are. And I think that's why people are very scared to not only do it, but scared to teach it. All right, so I opened up with a song that I wrote in the last 3 weeks. That's an improvised piece that I became a composition that I just recently recorded, and it's based off of something that's very about 100 years old. George Gershwin's "I Got Rhythm." And I made another. I used it as a creative vehicle for me to yet 100 years later. I'm using a standard old formula and something that's very familiar, but I'm changing it up. I'm still finding creative nooks and crannies that I can, find something to say through it still. So improvising is a very important part of not just music, but everything else in life. But it really, I use it not only just to like improvise melodies and have fun doing that, but to create music. A lot of times songs and compositions that I compose are really just, I build off of little ideas that I've been playing all along in my solos or just in my meandering when I'm practicing. Sometimes you can turn a practice exercise or an etude into a song. Be creative about it. I try to be creative in my practicing, even when I'm practicing my Bach. When I'm practicing my Bach every day, I think, okay, what happened if I swung it like Count Basie? Which I wouldn't recommend that, but you could do that. Just what it feels and sounds like it. You could say, you could do a lot. That's what I'm saying. The possibilities are endless. And I think that's what, I know it's later on in the question, but what brought me to jazz music was jazz music is an evolving art form. It derives from everything that's happened in the last 150 years, really. Not just musically, but socially too. There's a lot of history and historical stuff we should really cover when talking about jazz's standpoint. It's endless because it draws that gets cycled over the years. So a song from 2010, a hip hop track that someone might have covered it in a jazz vein or use elements of that, a rhythm or a chord or a sound. Technology, of course, is always an evolving thing that's kind of been moving in parallel, actually kind of in simpatico with all of music. I mean, you think about it, we're playing a lot of electronic music nowadays. You're used to hearing electronic drums as opposed to standard drum kits as you did commonly 70 70 years ago. So that evolves. So jazz music is always evolving, and I think all music should be, for that matter. So that's why I feel strongly about my voice as a quote unquote jazz musician. But anyway, that's, I don't know if that answers some questions for some of you.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if you had to choose one other thing that you've learned from music and have carried into your life, what is that? Like other than the improv part, like you already touched on that. Yeah.
Honestly, someone like myself who's lived by the sword of music my whole life, I've learned it. I lived off of one phrase: if you trust it, if you take care of it, meaning you absolutely put your best into it and you put your attention towards it and wholeheartedly work on it. And I think this really carries over to anything else, but in return, it'll take care of you. And what I mean is, whatever you do in life, whether you're a surgeon, whether you're an explorer, a scientist, an accountant, anything, it doesn't matter. As long as you're into it and you allow it, you trust yourself to learn and grow from it, I think it'll teach you how to live life. For me, I can think about everything from the travel to the people I've met, the cultures I've been exposed to, the food I've eaten, the people I've gotten to exchange with. I've been very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have that. And it ultimately shapes who I am as a person, who I am as a father, as a husband, as anything else in society that has any calculable, mean. So anyway, I look at it that way. So it's very important. It's just, if you trust anything, it'll teach you about how to live your life.
That's awesome. I'm gonna open it up the floor to some
Question.
Yeah, you guys go ahead and write in the chat if you have any questions for Mr. Pedraz, like similar to like what we did when Mr. Jones came in. Go ahead and write any questions in the chat. And let's see who's all in here.
If you relay those questions to me, that would be great, because I can't see any chat stuff.
For sure.
I might hang accidentally if I try to look.
You guys have any questions here? Anyone?
Bueller? Dating myself again.
They're like, this is like their second to last class ever for this entire year. So I think everyone's dead.
Cooked.
They're all dead. Oh, okay. Here's one.
Okay.
So what does your daily life look like as a jazz bassist?
Looks like this. Here's my living room, my bass. Here I am. I'm wearing a WRCJ sweater, hoodie, and a Pee Wee Herman t-shirt. I just made lunch for my girls. And anyway, my piano, as I like to call it. So where I do a lot of that's an evolving answer. Like, again, I've been through a lot of different stages of life now, but practicing and working at music's always a changing thing, whether you have more time for it or less time, whether you're writing more, whether you're studying more, whatever it is, let it lead your life. Trust it.
Awesome. Describe your favorite and least favorite parts about being a musician.
The least favorite up front, just because we don't want to get negative Nancy here. Carrying the instrument everywhere. I feel like I move my.
You chose that life, though, Mr. Pedraz. You did.
No, I chose that. No.
You had the violin. You didn't want the small one.
Harmonica would have been, or actually singer's the best, but most I do. And my most favorite thing, honestly, is meeting people. And I mean, meeting people. Like I've been really fortunate. I've been in about 70 different countries playing music for people, with people, sometimes with people that share my native tongue, some people not. It's been an experience and a half, and words can't even begin to describe like everything, but it's a lot, that I have in my memory bank. And yeah, that's probably the greatest thing. The people and the places are always great. Traveling is really cool, but the people is the most important thing. People you play for, people you play with equally. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then one last question for me, I think. Out of all the countries you've been to, what's your favorite?
That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a lot of them for different reasons, but I guess most recently in the last 10 years, I took a trip to Africa, and that was an eye-opening experience for me in a way, because I got to see a wide range of life there. I mean, I saw the riches and the wealth, and I also saw the poverty and the sickness, and I saw everything else in between. But the one thing that unified them and really kind of made everything really beautiful was, no matter how little or how much you have, and I think this kind of, maybe I could say this for every place I've ever been. This place was Zimbabwe, was really struck out at me. And everyone was so into the music. Everyone knew all the words and all the dances. And I mean, kids, people that were like 7 to 70, they knew all these songs, and it was really strong. It was really just, wow, like music's still integral part of this society.
Mm-hmm.
Where I sometimes I kind of feel a little lost that here in the States. I would say that's my least favorite part of the music business, is seeing that, sometimes like seeing the differences, how other cultures value it.
Yeah.
And how we don't sometimes. We take it for granted. We have a lot going on here, and they absolutely love us. Believe me, they absolutely love our culture. We have a profound impact on the rest of the world. And it's really awesome to go see how that plays out.
That's awesome. I have two more questions. Actually, a few.
Cool. Go ahead. I'm not going anywhere. I'm good.
Oh, so we have one from Areli. She said, "How do you deal with stage fright?" That's an important one for these guys, I think.
I have high anxiety about things. Most of my anxiety is getting to the gig. Funny enough, like my anxiety all boils up before, but when I'm actually there, I'm quite fearless. Once the clock starts, I'm on. And it's always been easier for me to go in front of 10,000 people than 10 people. So it's really strange. I have no problem going up there and making a fool of myself in front of 10,000 people at all. But really, that's kind of a lesson there. You really shouldn't be afraid to be unapologetically, completely yourself. And that's what this music and whatever form of music and way you express yourself, that's what that allows that to you. Yeah, that's what empowers you to get your voice out. Like I said, this is beyond just music. This is not just the notes I'm talking about or the performance itself. It's about your ability to transmit to another human being or a group of humans.
That's awesome. Ria asked, "Do you think it's hard to be known in the music society?"
Define known. I play a niche of music that people in my world think they're known, or I heard an oxymoron last week on Facebook. This was great. Popular jazz or mainstream jazz. All right, the jazz market makes up 0.003% of the whole music industry. So I don't do it for popularity. To quote the great Dizzy Gillespie, a great trumpet player, an ambassador of this American art form, if all you play for is popularity and claps on solos, that's all you're going to get. There's more to it than that. I don't do it for popularity. I do it because, like I said, the 4-year-old Jeff and me knew that music was the way, and I was hungry and searching for a vehicle, and I found it. But yeah, it has nothing to do with fortune and glory.
That's awesome. I'm gonna put that quote up in my room.
I think I added 2 words in there, but I think it's just if you play for the applause, that's all you'll get. I think that's actually what it is.
Sweet. And then Elliot asked, he asked a really silly question. Would you rather go a year with no eyelashes or go a year with no eyebrows?
I got both. The eyelashes are fine to go. The eyebrow thing is kind of strange. When you get rid of them, you start looking a little. I can't even cover them. Sorry, I'm holding the phone with one hand, but yeah, it looks weird. Just saying.
So probably no eyelashes.
Yeah, no eyelashes, because like really, if you get in the right sun and the right light, you can't even see that I have them or not. So.
All right, last one from me. If you had to tell these guys one tune to kind of like open the gateway into jazz, because I feel like I don't know how many people in here. I know one person, Aiden, is in the jazz band and he plays bass. So but as far as everyone else, I don't know if they've actually like taken the time to listen to jazz. What would you suggest?
Well, there's plenty of historical stuff out there. I would say earlier stuff, Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, anything that you can definitely find within a couple Google hits. But I would say most importantly, find something that you relate to. What, maybe Duke Ellington doesn't speak to you the way Miles Davis does. Maybe Archie Shepp speaks to you. Maybe Bill Evans speaks to you. Maybe Jelly Roll Morton speaks. I don't know. Everyone's got to have an access point. My access point was 90s funk guys like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea, and he was a jazz fan. So I heard about Stan Clark, Chet Baker, Miles Davis, et cetera, et cetera. You need a gateway to get yourself into it. But in short, find something that's a good gateway, but to start improvising. Here's a cool challenge for everyone here in the room. To start improvising, find a simple melody. One of those things. If you can play it. I can't play it left-handed apparently while I'm talking on the phone. But find a melody that's very familiar and start learning how to give it variety. Start playing with melody. Start playing with rhythm, most importantly. That's the key to jazz. It's rhythm. It's not about the notes. It's not about, there's only 12 notes. They all repeat and they all work over every chord in some way or another. I already said too much, but that's the long-term thing here is rhythm. Rhythm is number one. Jazz literally means rhythm in one of its literal definitions in the Webster's Dictionary. Look it up. But jazz is all about rhythm. So play with rhythm. You can take a classical piece, you can take a pop piece, you can take anything. Play with the rhythm, improvise, interpret, be musical and be happy. Enjoy it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Pedraz. We'll have to have you like do a jazz workshop with us in the future or something. Because we were rocking out earlier this year, just switching up keys, trying to tell them like, all right, guess the key that we're in for different songs. It was cool. So they've had some practice, but
all right, well, we'll have to come in. We'll do it in person. We'll do some listening. I was another thing I forgot. Shame on me. Let's go listen to it. If you don't know where it is, go on the internet. Listen.
Awesome.
Just listen.
Sweet.
Yes.
Right.
Listen.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you all.
Pedraz. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening.
Bye.
All right. Good day.
Good to see you.
Yep.
All right.